Hi guys, White Warlock here. This is gonna be the first deck guide video on the Blurple deck for set 4. As I said in my last video for the blue-red deck, I wanted to try out a different deck, and this is the deck I've really wanted to build since the end of set 3. And I'm gonna talk about the cards that are my starting point and which other cards could be included or which I included first and um, I'm currently trying other cards instead of those cards. This card is a 67 card list, which is unusual. Obviously, in almost every deck, you want to try to get down to 60 as much as possible. However, in a deck like this, which I've noticed in set 3, you draw so many cards and you have so many cards that are kind of only good for one specific matchup that you don't want them all the time. And in those situations, a deck above 60 cards is actually better. And it solves the curve issue a little bit, and especially the uninkable issues. Because right now we can run a little bit more uninkables. As you see, I have like 4 Mickeys, I have a Hades, I have Elsas, like high cost uninkables, which you normally don't want in your hand. However, with more than 60 cards, the chance of getting them in your opening hand is much lower, which is good because we end up drawing a lot of cards in most of our games, and that's the point where you want the Elsas and the Hades and stuff like that. So I've categorized every card again, like you're used to, and I've categorized them in a few, in a few categories with completely sure, like these are stock. I would probably never change them. Um, maybe like a little bit if you want to change the whole identity of the deck, but this would be like the stock lists. Um, so that is these piles, these piles, like these four. Then we have the piles like these, where there are cards I'm currently including, but you could exclude them and change them or remove them. Again, this is a 67 card list. If you want to remove some of the cards, that's also possible. And then I have the last one, which are cards I'm currently not playing, but are either the stock version I've used to play and therefore might be better than the ones I'm currently testing, or could be good replacements, which I don't know yet. Or, for example, for Ursula is a card that I'm currently testing, and if it tests out really well, then I'm gonna play more. Um, yeah, so I'll just start out with the one drops, and we are definitely playing 4 Chatterbox followers. I will not play 3, I will not play 2, I will not play 0. I will always play 4 Chatterbox followers. It draws us cards, it can quest, and it has the 2 attack. Right now, that is pretty important, especially if we want to kill cards like Robin Hood or um, Flint, stuff like that. And it allows us to draw cards against green steel while still being able to play a 1 drop. Um, so we're not that far behind on cards in our hand when we are playing on the play against green steel. I am currently playing Rafiki. This is because I am playing 2 Pinocchios and might want a third. And Rafiki is really good as a turn 1 play into a turn 2 Pinocchio on the draw. Why? Well, let's say you're playing against red purple, you're playing Rafiki turn. They play like a followers turn 1. You play Rafiki turn 2. They play Flynn on turn 2, and you can just Pinocchio their Flynn, kill their Flynn with the Rafiki. That's a fine trade, a 1 drop for a 2 drop, and then you have the Pinocchio for the followers even. So if they quest the followers, you can either bounce the Pinocchio to your hand with all the other with the bounce cards you play, or you can trade the Pinocchio for the followers, which is fine. Let's say if you have a second Pinocchio in your hand. It used to be 4 brooms. This card would be a little bit better against decks like Green Steel. So if you're a more Green Steel heavy meta, then you would probably just want to play the 4 brooms and 4 followers. But I like the 8 1 drops, especially in a list with 67 cards. If you can cut some cards and you go down to like 60, like 62 or something, you could cut 2 1-drops. You could play like 3 Rafiki, 3 followers, or I would rather play 4 followers, double Rafiki, something like that. Um, and yeah, that's kind of what you want. Um, the reason I'm playing Rafiki above the Magic Broom is really the Challenger 3. If it was Challenger 2, it would still be okay, but then it would probably have been like a 0-3 or something, right? But like yeah, a 2-2 is would also have been fine, but it gives like a little bit more reach if you want to kill X3s, which aren't really that big in the current meta. But let's say Ember Steel is kind of prevalent in your meta. You can Pinocchio an Aerial and kill it with Rafiki, or even cards like the Queen, a shifted Queen, which you can kill with Rafiki, which is yeah pretty cool. All right, so those are the 1-drops. Then for the 2-drops, I play 7 2-drops, which I will never change, most likely, which are 3 snakes, 3 1-jump ahead, and 1 Pinocchio. So the 1-jump ahead is one of our ramp pieces. We play 7 ramp pieces in total. Um, you might go to 8. That depends kind of on how the testing goes. Um, the other ramp piece is Mickey Mouse, but we'll talk about that later. Um, turn the 1-jump ahead is mostly used on turn 2 if you don't have a better 2-drop, or you have a Pinocchio and you don't really have anything you want to kill. You're not gonna play Pinocchio if you don't have anything you want to kill. You can just keep it in your hand. Or on turn 3 after you've played like a snake or something, which is okay in this deck. Like in red purple, you kind of want to keep the snakes for the rabbits. In our deck, that's also kind of what we want, but it's okay. And or you could sing it with the other 2-drop that you're playing, or even with the Pinocchio if you played turn 2 Pinocchio to kill something with the Rafiki or the followers, right? So yeah, I play the 1 Pinocchio stock. I would always play one, but the second one is like a choice. Uh, it kind of depends on how often you want Pinocchio. I've noticed that my games with Pinocchio, especially against aggro-ish focused decks, are really good. So I want to test a second, and I might even want to test a third. However, it is an inkable, so it has some problems in that regard. But currently, I like 2, but I might go to 3. And I'm currently testing out Ursula Sea Witch, which is 1/3 with Challenger 2, so it's basically like the Steel Prince Eric, right? The purple version of Steel Prince Eric, but it has a shift, and it's especially the shift I want to test out. Um, when we started in set 4 with Blurple, people didn't like the Ursula, but I think it's getting kind of underrated now, and it might have some place in the meta. Right now, it can kill Flint and survive, and that's quite important. And it can sing um, the 1-jump ahead. Well, there are not that many 3 attack characters on turn 2 on your opponent's on your opponent's turn 3 if you're on the play that can kill the Ursula, and on the draw maybe, but even then it could be okay. And then the cards that I'm not playing, which you could change out, is you could play Cruella, which is a Diablo answer. However, I've noticed that Diablo, like they might be um, a little hesitant and wait until they can kill the Cruella and then shift to Diablo, which is quite bad. So it's not that good of a Diablo answer, so I'm playing different cards to do that. But right now I have like not a very high amount of Diablo answers, so you might want more, and then Cruella fills that answer, like fills that spot correctly. So that would be probably my first change if the Ursula doesn't work out. I'm playing the Cruella again, or if I notice that I'm losing to Diablo too much, because this deck does draw a lot of cards, so you kind of want to get rid of the Diablo as ASAP. Um, as I said, third Pinocchio might be really good, and fourth Snake might be very good. So those are like the cards you could cut for the Ursula. Or if you don't like the Pinocchio, you could like play the fourth Snake over the Pinocchio. But again, you could also just cut cards and not switch them because this is a 67 card deck. All right, let's go to the 3 and 4 drops. So these are a lot of core cards that I would not shave or Cut really. You have the 4 friends. Friends is good. Friends is needed against green steel. Do not ink your friends against green steel. Again, if you're on the play, your opponent is if your opponent plays turn 2 Ursula, you are already very happy because they don't have turn 2 Bucky, so that's a-okay. And otherwise, you really need it to draw cards. So friends is definitely an auto include 4 of. Also because we have a lot of cards that can sing it on turn 4, so I would really say you should play it. Then we play 2 crab. This makes our Ursula a 6 attacking character, for example. So that's pretty good. It also makes our snake a 6 attacking character. So that has some benefits. It also makes our Rafiki a 6 attack character. So you can really kill a lot of things with a crab. And yeah, I think it's kind of needed in a deck that doesn't have hard removal. Then we play 4 Fox. Fox is probably the best card or the second best card of this list. It allows us to like bounce a character, maybe like a Rafiki after it's done his job, and then ink the Rafiki next turn, or bounce a Pinocchio, and then you can replay the Pinocchio next turn and kill something else. And it especially has really good synergy with Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is our best ramp piece, and this deck really plays around playing Mickey Mouse, questing or singing friends, and then bouncing it and then playing it again. That's why I might want to return to 4 snakes, but the 4 fox and the 3 snakes are mostly there to bounce the Mickey and the rabbit. The rabbit draws us cards. This is our main card draw. It's a really good card. Then we play. Our core is 3 goats. Currently, I'm playing 4, but I would not go down to 2 goats. 3 is really good, and I will always play 4 castle. This meta is really bad against castle, and castle is just insane. However, I would say in this deck, you ink it more than you would in like a red purple. Um, I try to see when you can really play a castle and when it's not punished, because that will allow a great opportunity, right, to like to gain the lore and to draw the cards. Like the best thing is I would not play a castle if I can't put a character in it. So the best thing would be on turn 5. However, because we have a ramp, we could actually play it on turn 4 and put something in. Like if you played Mickey on turn 4, on turn 3, you can play the Queen's Castle on turn 4 plus put your Mickey in it and then not quest with Mickey, for example. Or you could even play it on turn 3 after a 1 jump ahead against some decks that is just insanely good. Then you'll get at least 4 lore out of it and maybe even draw some extra cards. Then I'm currently playing 3 Peter Pan Shadowfinder. This is my Diablo answer. You might want to run 4 actually, because we run 0 Corellas. However, if we run Corellas, then the Peter Pan becomes a little bit better, but also less needed. So yeah, it gives our evasives rush. Currently, the only other evasives we are running are the Mim Purple Dragons, which don't need rush. They're already really good. So it's mostly because it's a 2-3 rush evasive, um, and that's okay. However, you could exchange them for the 4 ink an inkable Peter Pan Shadow. However, that is 1 turn later than you would want to kill a Diablo. So that's why I'm currently not doing that. I'm playing 3 Grammatalas. Normally, I would have played the Dolores Madrigal. However, I feel that the extra lore that Madrigal offers is worse than the extra card you can see with Grammatala. So you can choose. Again, card selection is important and it is random which 2 cards are on the top of your deck. So the likelihood that you get 1 good card and 1 bad card is uh, kind of like the same or a little bit higher than that you get 2 cards and you have to put 1 on the bottom, or that you get 2 bad cards, you draw 1 and you put 1 on the bottom, right? So Grammatala I think is better in that regard, but if I find out that I kind of really want to return to the 2 lore of Madrigal, then I'll switch the 3 with Madrigals. However, Grammatala always draws a card, and against some matchup like red blue, Dolor Madrigal doesn't, unless they have like quested with Hiram. So that's why I currently prefer the Grammatala. And then the fourth Merlin is optional, but I currently quite like it. It gives us a little bit more reach in the late game and gives us like that top deck answer that we often want with the goat. But this is something you could just cut, go down to 66 cards, or you could like find room for the Shadow or the Madrigals. Then I will move to the high end of our list. I'm playing 2 Elsa, 2 Purple Dragons, 2 Hades, 3 Ismas, and 2 Isabelle Madrigals. Um, the Elsas and the Hades are like your removal package. Like Elsa is not hard removal, obviously, but most of the time, if you could bounce it with like Snake or Fox, that it basically removal. Just you just limit the impact that one card can have, or that 2 cards can have on the board state. Um, we play the Purple Dragon because it bounces our characters, and most of the time, like I have a lot of games, I have like a Mickey Mouse and a rabbit, or maybe even 2 rabbits. I can quest with both, then I can play the dragon and bounce the rabbit and Mickey or the 2 rabbits, and I draw a card or draw 2 cards, or after that which I can play Mickey again and ramp even more. It's not really a turn 7 or 7 ink play most of the time, unless you have like 2 rabbits or a rabbit and a goat. But it really gives us like that end game reach because it's a 4 lore quester evasive, and it's a 5/7, so it only really dies to like Ember Steel cards or cards like Maleficent Dragon or yeah, like World's Greatest Criminal Mind is the biggest problem, but yeah, it can also die to Maleficent Dragon, but it survives most of the time, at least one turn, and it's really good protection against be prepared, because like if you see like your opponent might signal that they have be prepared, and you play like you have like a couple characters lying around, maybe like an Isabella Madrigal that you want to ink afterwards, maybe because you're playing as a red deck, and if they draw a Medusa, then it just dies for free, right? You can quest with those, bounce them, and play the purple dragon. Maybe you have a purple dragon and a Chernobog followers on the battlefield or something. Then they're not gonna be prepared. Or if they be prepared, then you have a lot of value with the cards you got back from your hands because you didn't lose any cards basically, right? Hades is like our prime removal. We only play 2. Normally I play 3, but I'm trying to play the bells as like a limited-ish removal, like a situational removal. And if the bells work out, then we have 5 instead of 3. Um, but we also play the Isma. Most like Isma is kind of removal as well, but it's mostly used for our own characters, especially with Rabbit. You draw 3 cards. You basically only do that if you have another Rabbit in your hand, but it just against some decks it just breaks the game open with your card advantage. And I play 2 Isabella Madrigals. This is a really good turn 4 play after you've ramped. Um, but it is really bad if you have more than one, and that's why I'm playing 2. I forgot that it's also an evasive, so it also works with Peter Pan Shadowfinder, and that's actually relevant because obviously the first time you play it, you can't quest with it, and it survives a lot of times actually against when you attack with it, because it really only can die to steal damage after which, because there isn't really a rush evasive character that people play except for the Shadowfinder, and even that's mostly our deck. Um, then I'm currently testing out double Ursula, the Shift Ursula. That's why we're playing the Little Ursula. It's like a Pinocchio on steroids. It quests for 3, and this allows your opponent of singing songs with their characters against some deck that's backbreaking, like Blue Steel. They can't sing their Holy Worlds anymore, or like even Ember Steel. Against Green Steel, yeah, it's okay. And against Red Blue, it's also pretty good because it stops them from singing How Far I'll Go, which is pretty relevant in the late game. You could shift it on turn 5 and also just quest for a ton because they can't really deal with it. It's a 4/7. It doesn't die in one turn almost all the time unless you're playing it like a Maui and they already have a character on board. It's like kind of like a castle, right? But you need to have a shift target. and it can immediately cast for 3 and then exert something, and then you can kill something with a character you already had. Then because I'm playing 3 Ismas, but the third one might be a cut for another Ursula. The Ursula does really well, and then maybe you want to play a fourth shift target, or to go back to the Hades. And if we want more removal, and I'm currently testing out 3 bells to see if that removal is relevant. I'm gonna try to keep notes to see how many times the removal is relevant, and if it's actually a good card. The cards you could play instead of these are, well, an additional Ursula if it turns out really well, or the Hades. And for the bells, you could play instead a third Madrigal, which I don't really like, or you could play no, a Cogsworth. This is the French card. This is Big Ben, which is I like the name, so I bought the French version in Lille. But yeah, Cogsworth is like the immediate replacement. This is something I played 3 of in a 67 card list in Lille, and it was quite good. But that format, it was much better against green steel than it would be now, because green steel is more focused on discard. Well, it was back then. It was also focused on discard, but also on killing your characters with like Tinkerbell and Grab Your Sword. There are less Grab Your Swords in the format at the moment than there were in Set 3. So Cogsworth kind of lost its main point of inclusion, but it could still be a good card, especially if more steel decks are going to be played in your meta. Alright, so those are all the cards I'm currently playing and considering. There are even more cards. Right now I have like Let It Goes, you could play Let It Goes. Um, you could play Second Star to the Right. You could play How Far I'll Go, but these are cards that I'm currently not going to test for a while. You could also play go a little bit more location heavy and play additional 4 manors, which is like which is like a better castle, but without the like for defense purposes, but and for lore purposes, but without the very good inclusion of the trigger, like drawing cards. So if your meta can deal with castles pretty well, then manor might be a better inclusion, or like an additional inclusion. But right now, I would definitely not switch them. I would play castle all the time above the manor, but you could play the manor in metas where you might not need the Peter Pan for Diablos, or instead of like the Grammatalas if you want less consistency but more threats. You could play the Maleficent Sorceress. This is more draw cards heavy, but currently I don't really have any room for 3 drops. And the 3 drops I'm currently playing are better. Maybe if your meta doesn't have that much red purple, you might not need more crabs, and then you can play 2 Magnificents. And you could play Cuscos, which are which are like a 2-drop replacement for the Ursula, but I feel that you would rather play Cruella. Again, this kind of depends on your meta and on your playstyle, but Cruella would be my first choice to replace it. But Cusco does offer like a threat where you can draw cards, and it works well with Merlin Crab. And the final one is the Elsa Storm Chaser, the new Elsa from set 4. It is a shift target for the Elsa, and it gives a character +2 Challenger and Rush, which can really help if you play this on turn 4, and then you can on turn 3 and on turn 4 you can play like a fox or a goat. You can give the goat Challenger +2 and Rush, so it's like a 6 attack here immediately, and or maybe you could use it on a rabbit and throw it into something for 4, maybe trade and then draw an additional card. But the unique ability really hurts. If it was inkable, you might choose to play it, but I don't think we can find the room. All right, those are all the cards I've been considering and the deck I'm currently playing. Please, if you have any other cards that I might want to include, put them down in the comments and let me know what you think of the deck. I'm gonna try to test this today a lot, and I'll try to test it on stream today as well, and on the other days. I might bring it to my first store jams. However, That's quite early because it's already Saturday, um, and I might just play my red blue items list first, and then maybe play this the week after. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.